Hey everybody, welcome to my Facebook Live show. My name is Mary Hyatt and I am thrilled to be with you today on another beautiful Wednesday, and I'm super excited about our topic today. I cannot wait to get into it with you. But for those of you who are joining me for the first time, you don't know who I am, what I'm about, what's this whole, Mary Hyatt kind of thing. Let me just give you a quick intro into who I am. So I am a life coach, an entrepreneur, and I'm also a presidential diamond with doTERRA essential oils. And my job is to help really empower women to wake up, to find their voice, and to become fully alive. So we cover all kinds of topics as it relates to really finding and discovering that core part of who you are, learning to live in alignment with that truth, and then really coming to a place where you begin to love your body as it is now and to really live this beautiful, full, turned on for life. So let's start the show. All right, so let me get this off of here. Okay, awesome. So welcome everybody, super excited. I don't know why that's doing that. Hang on one second, everybody. Let's go back here. Okay, there we go. If that's clicking for you guys, maybe that's just doing it for me. Sorry, this is the real behind the scenes aspect. I'm trying to figure out, I've got some flashing on my screen, but I'm not seeing that on y'all. So hopefully, if you guys will let me know, do you see it going like this? If you do, let me know. I'm gonna try to fix that, but it doesn't look like that's coming up for you guys, so that's awesome. So guys, we are going to be talking all about compliments today. So I was talking to my sweet boyfriend the other day, and we were talking about how for most women, and he's somebody who has a lot of female friends, which is really lovely, and so he gets to, I think, just empower a lot of women to honestly love themselves. And so we always kind of debrief, and he was talking to me about how one person that he was talking to, he was complimenting and saying something really nice to them, and they had a really hard time receiving that. And it brought this memory back to myself of like, oh my gosh, I remember what that was like for me when it was super challenging to receive any kind of compliment. Where if somebody would say, oh my gosh, you look really nice today, I would instantly try to deflect it or just totally reject it. Like it was so awkward for me to actually receive any kind of compliment. And I think that's pretty universal. Like one of the things that I've noticed in myself, now that I am more confident in receiving compliments, I give so many more compliments. Like I'm very generous in telling people like, oh my gosh, I love your shoes, or to a total stranger, you have the most beautiful eyelashes, or whatever it is. I really try to compliment people now a lot more often, but I literally never complimented anyone when I was unable to receive compliments myself. And what I have realized in this process is that your ability to receive compliments is in direct proportion to your sense of self-worth. So if you have a really strong sense of self-worth, you have a lot of confidence, then when you have somebody compliment you, it's almost like there's this affirmation that it's something you already know. Like, thank you so much. Like, yes, like I do have great eyelashes, or thanks, I do love this outfit, or whatever it is. And when you don't have a good sense of self-worth, when you have this really low level of belief about who you are, when somebody comes in and compliments you, it feels really awkward. I wrote on my Instagram about this, and a lot of people said that they instantly look down when somebody compliments them. They don't even want to look the person in the eye who just gave them this compliment. And so I was starting to think about this journey of loving ourselves more. And you guys know that I talk a lot about that, of really coming home to where we feel worthy of love, where we come home to our bodies, where we come home to this new awareness of this alignment inside of ourselves that says who we are is perfect. Who we are is whole. Who we are is not broken. Even though we have all of these challenges that we experience in our lives, inherently in our being, we are absolutely whole. And so I've realized that receiving and accepting a compliment is a great kind of barometer for seeing how strong your sense of self-worth actually is. And so I kind of want to go through this and dissect it a little bit, because I think that there's some really important pieces to take away from this that I think will help you identify where it is that you are having a hard time accepting that you are enough, where you're having a hard time accepting that you are lovable. And I really believe that our two basic fears for every single person is that we are not enough and that we're not lovable. And any tool that we can use to begin to help us identify where do we get stuck with that? Where do we stop believing that we're worth somebody's love, that we're worth being treated well, that we are worth being healthy, that we are worth being wealthy, all of those different things. Where is the breakdown where we have this disconnection and we know it intellectually, but then when somebody compliments us, it's like, no, that's not true. So it's kind of a fun little tool, an assessment tool for yourself to see where do you get stuck in your sense of self-worth. Okay, so I have been thinking about this. So why is it that we cannot receive compliments? And I think there are 3 reasons why we actually can't receive these compliments. And let me just get over here. Okay, so the first, we kind of mentioned this, but the first reason that we can't accept a compliment from somebody is because it doesn't align with our identity. So it feels really awkward to hear a compliment because it goes against every single thing that we are telling ourselves on a daily basis. Like, just think about that. If your internal dialogue is, I am stupid, I'm never going to do this, I'm ugly, my hips are too big, my stomach is too fat, I have too much cellulite, every other person is more beautiful than me, every other person is more successful than me, I'll never figure this out, I'm too slow, I'm too fast, I'm too much, I'm not enough. That's going to be the internal dialogue that's on repeat. And I think they say that over 70% of our thoughts are negative towards ourselves, like ourself, demeaning, really shameful things that we would kind of berate ourselves with. So it's out of alignment with our identity. It contradicts our own views of who we are. So if our identity is a loser, ugly, uneducated, whatever that is, if that's who we identify with, that when somebody offers us a compliment, it's like, that doesn't fit. Like that, I don't know what to do with that because that's in contrast to who I actually am. And the level of your uncomfortability shows how strong the opposite is true. So for example, if somebody comes up to you and they say, oh my God, you are so beautiful. You just radiate. You are so magnetic. Like people are just drawn to you. Like you have this contagious amount of energy. So if the level that you believe that is not true shows you this disconnect of identity, that a stranger can see all these beautiful things about you, but for you, that isn't true for you. So if you are super uncomfortable and feeling so awkward about that compliment, it just shows you that gap of how far it is that you actually have that identity kind of crisis going on. So it's going to show you more than anything how you define yourself. So it's actually a very cool tool. So as it relates to identity, I love this quote by Tony Robbins. He says, "The strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves." So think about that for a second. How do you, either out loud verbally or especially internally within your mind, how is it that you define yourself? Stephanie, you said that you heard on a neurological level, our voice is the voice we find the most believable. So it makes sense that what we tell ourselves resonates to be the truth. Yeah, our sweet brains do not know the difference between a lie or fiction and truth. So we've talked about this a lot. So it hears our voice and it automatically resonates as true in our mind. So if we say I'm ugly, our brain believes that we're ugly. Even if somebody comes to us and says, you are the most gorgeous, beautiful being on this planet, it's out of alignment with the identity and the truth that you've created, and you can't accept it. So I want to ask you a really important question as it relates to identity. When did you come up with the identity of how you currently perceive yourself? When was that formulated for yourself? When did you come up with your current identity? Think about that. How old were you? So a lot of things go into your identity. I'm a middle child. I am an entrepreneur. I am a sister. I am a daughter. But that we go into all these other things. Like I used to say, oh, I suck at follow through. I suck at follow through. I'm really good at starting things, but I suck at follow through. When did I adopt that as truth for myself? Somebody told me that a long time ago, so I adopted that as truth, and now it's something I say about myself. Now I've shifted that since then, but again, there's a time when you develop this identity, and so how old is that description of who you are? How outdated is it? And is it time to update your identity? Because we will go through our entire lives finding proof about ourselves that stays consistent with how we define ourselves. So if I believe I'm ugly, I will go out and I will search out the proof to find that I am ugly. If I believe that I'm overweight, then I am going to go find the proof that that is true. And at any body size, I could believe that I am the perfect healthy size for my body. And I can find the proof for that. I can find the proof that I'm beautiful. We will go and search out all the things to back up this theory that we have about our identity because we want our world to be consistent with how we define ourselves. So the first way in which we have a hard time receiving compliments, or the reason why, is because it doesn't align with our identity, which is pretty interesting. Now, the second reason why this is really challenging to accept compliments is because we don't want to have to live up to it. So have you guys ever felt that? Like if somebody compliments you, like, oh my gosh, you totally rocked that out last month. Or you look so amazing today. Like, what did you do different? Your hair looks good. Your outfit looks good. All of a sudden, we give ourselves this added pressure that now we have to keep that up. Now we have to stay consistent with that piece. And honestly, we kind of don't want to keep up with that. Maybe it's something that we don't value, but now that somebody's recognized it, now that somebody has called it out, we feel like we have to live up to it. And that feels like a lot of pressure. And so sometimes when we hear praise from people, it instantly creates this panic inside of ourselves, and we are going to totally shut down. Because we think, well, I can't dress like this every day, or I have no desire to put makeup on and fix my hair every day, or whatever it is, that the compliment is about, or work, or I can't work that hard to create those results 24/7, or whatever it is. We have this panic. So the second reason why it's challenging for us to receive compliments is because we honestly don't want to have to live up to it. It's too much pressure. Now, the last reason why we have a hard time accepting compliments, and if you guys have additional reasons, please comment and let me know what it is for you. But this is one that comes up a lot, especially for women, is that we don't want to look conceited. Somewhere, somehow, somebody said that if we accept a compliment, we are full of ourselves or we're conceited. So somewhere, somehow it got linked that actually believing the compliment that somebody offers us means that we're full of ourselves. And as for me, as a good Southern woman, I need to be humble and I need to never be, too proud of myself and all of those misbeliefs. So for me, I don't want to internalize that compliment as true, because then maybe I'll be perceived as having a big head. So we don't want to look conceited. So do those feel true to you? Do those feel true? So I'm curious from you guys, which one of those, out of those three, do you feel like is the most true for you, or the strongest for you? So do you feel like you have a hard time receiving compliments because it doesn't align with your identity? Do you have a hard time accepting compliments because you don't want to have to live up to that perception of yourself? Or is it because you don't want to be perceived as conceited? So 1, 2, or 3, put that in the comments below so I can see what you guys are resonating with and what is true for each of y'all. Now, there are kind of some typical ways in which we respond to compliments. So you guys are saying 3. Christy, you said 3. April, you said 3. Stephanie, you said 1 and 3. Lisa, 2 and 3. Erica, 3. Yeah, so there's a lot around that 3, which is really interesting. Jessica, you said a 1. Guys, thanks so much. This is so great. Tina, 2 and 3. So you can see there's all of these resonate with somebody on here. They're all so true. But there are ways in which we begin to process all of these compliments that we're receiving. So let's get a little bit deeper now. Now that we've kind of identified why it's challenging to receive them, now let's see what happens with our behavior. What is your response when somebody gives you a compliment? What is your response? So there are 3 responses that we're going to cover today, and I want you to think about what is typical for you. What's your go-to response and how you handle compliments? Because the first stage of any kind of change and beginning to learn to receive compliments so that we can begin to identify with that self-worth is we have to become aware of our current habit and our current pattern. So for me, this was my big one. Rejection. So is it rejection? So rejection is the first kind of response that happens when you receive a compliment. And so you reject compliments. Now, here's a couple ways that you do it. If y'all have your own ways, some of you guys are putting this in here, which is so great. So go ahead and comment below and tell me, how do you reject a compliment? Here's some of the things that I got from my Instagram. Oh, this old thing. You know, like if somebody says, oh my gosh, what a great outfit. You're like, oh, this old thing, this was really cheap. Right? We reject it. Basically like, you don't know what you're talking about. No. Really? Is one response. Oh my gosh, stop. That was one that I was like, oh my gosh, people say that all the time. Oh my gosh, stop, just stop, right? We just reject it. No, have you seen my thighs? No, I have cellulite down here, you know? So that's a rejection. No, I'm not beautiful, I'm ugly. If somebody says, oh my gosh, you have great skin. Oh my gosh, no, my skin is the worst. Okay, that's a way to reject it. If somebody says, man, like your calves look awesome. Like, are you freaking kidding me? I hate my body. Okay, so that's one way to reject it. Or if somebody says, you really rocked it out last month. Like you had a killer month in business, way to go. And you're just like, it's no big deal. Or thanks, but it was nothing. So those are ways in which we reject. So I was talking to my dad on the phone today, and he knew that I was going to be talking about compliments. And he said, I have this analogy that I think would be helpful for you. And he said, imagine if I were to throw you a tennis ball and you took that tennis ball and you just slammed it on the ground. That's what it looks like to reject somebody's compliment. So somebody who compliments you is, it's kind of a vulnerable thing for somebody to offer a compliment because they're taking their time out to find something that they want to bring to light, and it's a gift. You know, they're offering you this beautiful gift of this compliment, and you're like, nope, not having it. You know, it's like slamming that tennis ball down on the ground, okay? So that's what it looks like when we are going to reject. So that's one way that we respond to compliments. Now, the second negative way to respond to a compliment is deflection. So are you a deflector? So here's what deflecting actually looks like. So for the tennis ball analogy, I'm going to pass you the tennis ball, you catch it, and you instantly toss it to the side. So rejection is you catch it, you slam it down. Deflection is you catch it and you toss it off to the side. All right. So one way we deflect and take the attention off of ourselves is that we instantly play tennis ball ping pong match with compliments. We instantly give another compliment back to the person. So we don't take the time to receive it, and we'll go, no, but like your hair really is beautiful. Or no, but I mean, look at your body though. It's so incredible. So we instantly are upping the compliment and offering it to them. So it's like, no, you're so great. No, you're so great. And so we never really receive it. And that's a way to deflect. That's actually, we maybe perceive that as a really sweet and kind thing, but in reality, that's a coping mechanism. Because we're uncomfortable with the compliment, we'll just deflect it back to you and let's focus on how great you are. Another way to deflect is to say something like, thanks, but I really wasn't that helpful. Or maybe you pass the credit off to somebody else. So you're like, thanks, but really it was my team that did it. You know, so you're deflecting it onto somebody else. You're not holding that compliment for yourself. You're obviously giving it, you're re-gifting the compliment. Another way of deflecting is laughing and making some joke. I used to do that a lot. Another thing that you could do is basically talk about how terrible it really is. So like to deflect, for example, somebody might come up to you and say like, oh my gosh, you did so good the other day when you were on Facebook Live, or, you know, you did so great when you got up in front of the PTO meeting and talked about XYZ. Thank you for sharing that. That was really meaningful. And you're like, you know, I really felt like it wasn't that good. I mean, I did this and I did this and I really was nervous. I do that. Y'all, I'm just going to tell you, I do that all the time because I feel awkward receiving that. So I'm going to bring to light and deflect with all of the things that I can pick apart that I want to do better next time. So that's kind of the second way that you can begin to have this response to these compliments. Now, the third way is where I really want to spend some time. And this is the place of acceptance, okay? And this is my favorite way. And this is where if I were to throw you the tennis ball, you hold the tennis ball in your hand, you catch it, and you hold it, and you just internalize that compliment. And I'm going to show you how to do this in a second. But that's what acceptance looks like. Somebody tosses you the ball, and you grab it, and you hold it. You don't slam it and you reject it. You don't pass it and deflect it. You just hold on to it. So I want to read this quote to you that I just love, which is, in each moment, you are either practicing self-acceptance or you are judging yourself. So I'm going to say that again. In each moment, you're either practicing self-acceptance or you are judging yourself. Now, this is from Robert Holden, who is the author of Lovability, and such a incredible author, an incredible book. But this is really important because if we can't accept the compliment, again, it just feeds that old story of our identity that we aren't worthy of love, that all of the things that that person is saying isn't really true. And if we want to exist in more self-love, if we want to get to the place where we stop beating ourselves down and stop hating ourselves and stop this verbal abuse to ourselves, we have to learn to begin to accept that the things that people see in us, the good, the wholesome, the beautiful, that those things are true. That those things are absolutely a part of our identity, and we need to like hold on to those and internalize them and accept them as truth. And so that's the third response, is accepting these as true. So if we think about this, how are we going to actually begin to do this? So let me just get to this other quote. Okay, I don't have a quote card for this, but I have to read this to you. This is from Janine Roth. And she is a fabulous woman who talks a lot about body image and food and our relationship to both of those. And she said, for some reason, we are truly convinced that if we criticize ourselves, the criticism will lead to change. If we are harsh, we believe we will end up being kind. If we shame ourselves, we believe we end up loving ourselves. It has never been true, not for a moment, that shame leads to love. Only love leads to love. Only love leads to love. And I can promise you that the more that you are able to accept these compliments and to internalize them as truth, the more that you'll begin to rewrite those old stories that know that you are worthless, that you aren't enough, that you're not lovable. You'll begin to rewrite that. And it's really, truly a gift. And then the cool thing is, and I've got to see this, is that then you'll flip that around and then you're able to give that gift to other people. And then you can say, oh my gosh, you are so amazing. And you can offer these compliments in such a genuine way that it's really beautiful. So let's look at how we're actually going to break this down. So ways to fully accept your sense of self-worth, that you are enough. Okay, here's how we're going to actually do this. This is super basic, super easy, But to actually accept a compliment, the only thing that you have to do is say 2 words. Thank you. Thank you. That's it. That is it. You don't have to reject it. You don't have to deflect it. All you have to do is say thank you. Now that seems super simple, but I promise you at the beginning, if you're not used to doing this, it feels really awkward. And there's this moment of silence, and I feel like it's this deafening silence where you go, they're going to think I'm conceited, or I don't really believe that about myself, or this is super awkward, or what do I say next? And there's this weird pause, because even when we offer compliments, we as the compliment giver are used to somebody deflecting or used to somebody rejecting. And so when somebody actually accepts the gift that you've just given them, they're like, oh yeah, okay, wow. And that is a teacher for them as well, which is really powerful. So practice saying thank you. That is it. I mean, that is as easy and as complicated as it gets. Now, once you've said thank you, this requires a little bit of mindfulness and consciousness, is to let it soak in. Allow this to resonate in your body, to really resonate in your body. Let it soak in. This person just said the sweetest thing about me. This person saw something that I haven't been able to see in myself. This person vocalized something about me that I've been scared to admit. I've been scared to admit that I'm good at something, or that I am beautiful, or whatever it is. And they just brought that to light. So let that soak in for a second. And after you've let that soak in, and this is milliseconds in this moment, of course, but I'm drawing it out so that you begin to see it. But the next piece of this that you want to do is instantly affirm it again to yourself. And so you almost say, and so it is, or so be it, or amen. You want to affirm it again in yourself. So if somebody says, oh my God, Stacy, you have the most beautiful eyelashes, you can say, thank you. Let it sink in, and then go, I do have beautiful eyelashes. Now, you may or may not totally believe this yet, and that might feel really silly and stupid, but it's a way, again, to say to your brain, I want this identity to be true. I want to be beautiful. I want to believe that I'm beautiful. I don't want to look at myself and literally hate myself every single time I look in the mirror. I don't want to do that anymore. That is torture, y'all. I have lived so many years of picking apart my body, seeing this little roll over here, seeing this saggy skin over here, seeing this roll here, this back fat there, cellulite here, ham hock thighs, as I used to call my thighs. I have picked apart my body and shamed it and beat it and hated it for so long that affirming somebody else's truth about who I am at the beginning felt really weird and foreign, but the more that I did it, it was easier and easier to begin to believe those things. And then lastly, you want to say, I receive that. Now that's a way to say to your subconscious mind too, this is true. So pretty much immediately after you say thank you, say, I receive that. Now that's something that I say now out loud to basically tell myself hey, pay attention, you need to receive this. You need to receive this. Because sometimes when we only say thank you, if we have that on autopilot, that can also be a way to deflect, oh, thanks, thank you. And you're not really internalizing it. So adding on, I receive that, allows your whole sense of self-worth to go, yep, we're going to add this to proof that I am enough. We're going to add this proof that I am lovable. So you're going to say thank you. You're going to let that soak in. Then you're going to affirm it again to yourself, and then end with, I receive that. So when somebody says, you freaking killed it today, thank you. I really receive that. Thank you. And I say that all the time. If you're around me and if you've complimented me, you've probably heard me say that. I receive that. And I think that's really beautiful. So as you're thinking about these compliments, entering into this sense of more self-love, really anchoring into this understanding that you are so worthy of belonging, of kindness, of beauty, of health, of wealth, of a great relationship. of all the success in the world. As we begin to work through these issues where we get blocked in our sense of self-worth, a great tool that we can use is how do we respond to compliments, and how can we shift that into a space of more acceptance. So I want to ask you a couple questions as we kind of bring this into a close to kind of highlight this a little bit further. So here's the questions. When you're thinking about what somebody says about you and you have a hard time believing it, I want you to ask yourself this question. What would happen if you agreed that you were beautiful? What would happen if you agreed with the fact that you were beautiful? We don't ever slow this down to think about what are we actually afraid of, because we think, well, everybody wants to be beautiful. So why can't I believe that I'm beautiful? It's not that you're not beautiful. That has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it. It's the belief. So what would happen if you agreed that you were beautiful? And journal this out, y'all. Journal this out. What would happen if you agreed that you were kicking ass in some area of your life? What would happen if you agreed with somebody that you were smart, that you were inventive, that you were creative? What does it mean to you to actually accept a compliment? Where is the breakdown here? What would happen if you actually agreed that you were beautiful, that you were great, that you were intelligent, that you were resourceful? Where is this disconnect? What are you afraid of by agreeing to that? Because I'm going to tell you this, it's the truth. It is the truth. I don't even know some of you guys that are on this, and I can tell you, because I have worked with enough clients, that abso-freaking-lutely, you are enough. Abso-freaking-lutely, you are beautiful. That there is a goodness inside of you that is just waiting to be unleashed and to shine. And I know that some of y'all know my story, but there was a time when it was so dark for me that I did not believe that I could have never accepted a compliment, because I hated myself so much to the point where I would have to have my ex-husband come into the bathroom with me when I would shower. There were a couple times where this happened. I was like, I don't trust myself, and I need you to come in here. Like, I hated myself so bad that I thought the world would be better without me. And so the thought that somebody could give me a compliment and see something good in me, it was just crazy, But the more I did this work, the more that I did, I realized that, oh my God, like, I am so lovable just because I breathe, just because I have woken up in the morning, no matter what I do or anything that I accomplish, just being alive is enough. Just being alive, just breathing, which is involuntary, is enough, that I am lovable and that I am so worthy of love. So think about this when you're thinking about compliments. It's like, who cares about compliments? It's not this big deal, except that it's a beautiful tool. It's a mirror for you to see where your sense of self-worth lies. What's really getting in the way? Are you rejecting? Are you deflecting? And how can you move into more acceptance? And then offer that generosity to others and compliment them. And begin working on believing, wow, this is so out of alignment with how I'm telling myself of who I am. And these are lies. I'm telling myself lies every day. We need to shift that. We need to change that, And that there's no pressure. There's absolutely no pressure to be anything but who you are. And I promise you, if you accept a compliment, you're not conceited. You're not full of yourself. To me, that's like the biggest compliment that you can give God, is by accepting compliments, because you're like, yeah, you did a good job creating me. Like, he didn't mess up. He didn't mess up on anybody. He didn't freak out, Every single person is so worthy of love and belonging. And so it's a compliment to the Creator, to your higher power, to whatever you believe in, that you are not a mistake. And that you can affirm in yourself that the things that people see in you are true. So I hope that has been helpful for you guys to think about compliments in a new way and to begin to learn how to baby step yourself into accepting them more often by thank you. I receive that. So guys, please, of course, share this video if you can with your audience, if you think that this would be helpful for them. Please share this and be with me next week on my Facebook Live every single Wednesday, 1 o'clock Central Time right here. And I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your week. And just remember, as I always say, the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. Thank you guys.